actually recording. Okay. Bye. Good morning.
I suppose it would help if I unmute myself. Good morning.
I mean, do like a charades kind of deal.
Ooh, that's a great warm up, I think. Ooh, MC, now we're hearing ourselves in
Yeah, so
duplicate on
mute
the
or
phone.
turn off the sound on your Facebook Live.
Do that.
I did remember to do that this time. This is always a learning opportunity. Good
Always.
morning, my dear friend. Hang on. Okay, so, oh, look. Okay, now see, I cannot do that. I cannot be watching us
I
on.
know. I won't do it. I refuse.
But
I want to tag people in it, but I'll have to share it with them later. I can't do it.
Well, I want to be able to follow comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I took us out of my little dealie, my little screen, but I can still see comments if people bring them in, because what I this is a learning always.
Right.
And I, like, last time there were people commenting like the whole time, and I was like, oh, I just totally missed all of this. So
That's so good. Well, congratulations. First of all, hello.
Hi.
And congratulations on the performance, a storytelling event a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week or a couple of weeks ago? You know, me and time.
I know. Time is no longer linear. It was January 22nd, so it's been a couple of weeks. But thank you. Yes, it was possibly the most terrifying performance of my life, and that's saying something because I'm generally terrified at every performance, but knowing that we had all of these technological pieces that needed to be managed was I just wanted folks to be highlighted and be honored, and all of it, and it was beautiful. We had some learning opportunities and some your friend Denise Marquita Wilson.
That would be my mom. Hello,
oh,
Mother.
That's your mom. Hi,
Mom. Almost always the first to jump on.
Hi, Mom. How are you? You launched a new website?
I launched a new website. I'm really excited about it.
Book?
I'm rebranding Joyful Muse, which is my coaching business, and bringing folks along. I've got teamed up with my one of my besties, but also fellow life coach, Danielle Drakes. And so we are moving forward with services we're offering. Yeah, the website's amazing. I'm really in love with it. And have you as an affiliate there as well. So if people want to check out the website just to see Erin's page too, that's great. But yeah, doing that. Valentine's, I'm all Valentine out. So Valentine's,
you look unbelievably beautiful.
Thank you. We have to, if you don't, if you like, it depends on like where you are, right? If you're booed up, you're coupled up, it's like do that thing. If you are on your own, love on yourself. That's right. That's what it's all about, loving your family. Parker and I have been leaving little love notes to each other. Parker's my 11-year-old, leaving love notes to each other on the door. Sweet. I mean, when it's just cold and gray, it's like what can we do to just, I don't know, to just elevate on some level, right?
And right now it is yes, and
my birthday's coming up on Tuesday, so
my fellow 43. Happy. What are you gonna do?
Chill. That's pandemic birthday. Yeah. That's
right. Good. Good.
What's the fun? We'll see.
I don't even like, my birthday came and went, and I was like, I think I only realized that it was my birthday because of Facebook. Thank goodness for Facebook. I mean, if there's one like really awesome thing about Facebook is your birthday is special.
As long as you put it on that you have a birthday and what day it is, you're going to get that love. It's going to come back to you.
It's really nice. It's really nice. Well, happy birthday.
Yeah.
A few days early. I wanted to do a few little shout outs this morning because I have just like these amazing if you could see me family members. You are one of them, but I've been getting all these amazing gifts, and so I wanted to share my little mug.
Yes.
It says
Sipping
sipping
tea
tea
and
and
loving.
loving me,
We love it.
and it's coffee, but the sentiment is the same. And last weekend, I came home, uh, and I found this beautiful gift on my front porch. And much like when you left me a gift on my
I was
front
saying,
porch,
and then you discarded it because you thought someone was poisoning you, or this was not food, and so it was okay to accept.
discard yours. I was just cautious about opening it up and digging into it.
Fair enough.
So, because I am certain I am important enough in this world for someone to poison me, to want to poison me. But this absolutely incredible card was on my front porch with a basket, and it opens up. It's handmade. It says, "Thank you for opening doors and ushering in the music," which is just magnificent.
Wow.
So this mug was in it, these earrings were in it, and Kimberly Johnson, who is one of our most recent participants. Special K is her alter ego. She is an incredible storyteller and spoken word artist, and she just sort of like surprised me out of the blue with this beautiful gift and this handmade card, which is amazing. And she makes those cards and sells them. So it's so great. And then
How do we
this
get
morning,
those cards though? So shout out to how we get those cards, because that is amazing. And
I think handcrafted by Kim is her page, but I will find out and put it out into the world. And then this wrap. This is handmade also by Erica Nichols, who's one of our most recent storytellers as well. And so, I mean, like it getting to do this work is such a gift anyway, but having these incredibly talented people with all of these amazing gifts, sort of bestow them upon me. Erica made these types of things for every single member of our group. And yeah, it's just really remarkable. So I just wanted to put this out there and share their beautiful talents, and say that this morning. So
gorgeous. I love it. Yes.
Yay.
Feeling the love.
I know, right?
And I mean, and the aesthetic we have with your background, with the matching shawl. No. The earrings are also, in the same design, similar design. And your mug.
It's all
of you right now.
It fit inside of like some sort of similar teal themed color palette. There's a little bit of that in all of it, but yeah, otherwise you're just looking at a blank wall behind me. I need to get a divider like you have. I love that, because then you can wear any colors.
Anything, and it's just gonna pop.
You can do your red with your lipstick is awesome.
Well, thanks again. Completely influenced by your look last time. So
you're hysterical. So I'm just looking to make sure that I'm not missing anything on our other page. One day I'll, get a team in here to do all of this, but there's something to be said for like wanting to be like just totally in the mix of all of this. But okay, so I invited you here this week to because I invited you here to be my co-host every third Saturday. And I am so excited that you are doing this, but we did have like a couple of topics that we were gonna address. And so I sent them to you the other day, and the first one was, Black History Month. Yay or nay? Should we be highlighting Black history every day? And do we do ourselves and our world a disservice, not just through Black History Month being a month, but the idea that we have, Mental Health Month and, Latinx History Month and, the Mental Health Day. And, it feels like a lot of times we relieve ourselves of our personal responsibility of things by just, posting a bunch of memes and pictures and stuff during 1 month out of the year. And then we feel like we've done our due diligence.
Right.
And so I wanted to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you in that we can't just silo all of these different aspects of our culture, heritage, identities, and expect that to be okay, right? And as an ally, right, to various identities, uh, uh it is very easy to kind of go, okay, great. I did this. I posted this. I said, I checked off the box. I hired the Black actors for the Black History Month program. I brought in the Black facilitator for our one diversity training that we're going to do during Black History Month. Done, one and done, and it's good to go. And so absolutely not. I feel like a part of decolonizing everything, right, and dismantling white supremacy, and patriarchal forces and all of those things really comes from making sure that we are embedding, acknowledging all of those identities through and contributions of those people. Right. Throughout the year, right? So throughout the school curriculum, it was really eye-opening to me when I'm trying to think of when it kind of first occurred to me. I guess the first time it occurred to me that white folks don't know Black history was going to college at West Virginia University, Morgantown, West Virginia, home of the Mountaineers. Loved it. Amazing time. Let's go Mountaineers. But as I am interacting with, my white peers and realizing that, oh, wait, you don't know this history at all. Slavery. That's right. And that's it. And Martin Luther King, right. Maybe Rosa Parks, and you learned it at the Black History Month assembly, if they had that, right, in your region and at your school. And so absolutely it needs to be a part of the thread of our lives and our understanding that, Black folk and African enslaved folk built this country, are the foundation of this country. Yep. And so the history of our country, of our nation, is Black history, like, period, right? However, I'm also of the mindset that, when it comes to being celebratory and taking a moment to pause and be grateful and highlight achievement and highlight successes and highlight, how we have overcome, that is also important, and the fact that a Black man started, Carnegie Woodson started Black History Month with Black History Week in 1926, to say, listen, Black folk, we have a history. Right. We have something to acknowledge. We have something to be proud of. And then, for it to expand into a whole month, the shortest month of the year, okay. I think is commendable. And I think it's also one of the reasons that, I grew up going to a predominantly Black, elementary and middle schools. And so again, like, it was, learning that history was a part of kind of the thread of, my everyday coming up. But Black History Month was that moment where, okay, here we go, little actress Lucretia gets to put on. Right. Black History Month show and be Vanna Black. Absolutely did Black History Jeopardy as Vanna Black. It was amazing. And so having a moment to just have those celebrations, I think is important for any heritage, religious background, ethnic background, all of those things. I don't think I would want us to get rid of that. No. But absolutely, we have to make sure that it is not, we have to come out of that idea that it is supposed to just happen during this one time frame. Right. And, otherwise not to not to be spoken upon, you know?
No, and before we came on, we were talking about a sort of both and, um, you know, approach to this, and I, I, I want to see people highlighted. I want to see Black people highlighted. I want to see LGBTQ people highlighted. I want to see, every sort of marginalized, underrepresented group of people, highlighted and celebrated. And, and I want high in the sky, these are my dreams for the world. That is, that I'm never going to stop wanting. That what is the magic? What is the magic? What is the magic pill or the magic cure or the magic, moment where people go, oh, these are not like just past stories. These are not issues that are, because we are now in a space where we are highlighting and we are recognizing, excellence, and, and giving this space, like, for real. Because, I mean, we've always had Black History Month, in my lifetime. But I think we're doing a little more now than just giving lip service. And so progress is being made. But how do we
And
get
also,
it so people, right? I want there to be like a real connection between like why and how do we move forward. And, I want to not be mad.
yeah, for there to be some sort of feeling of harmony around, us really uplifting and centering each other's, or just acknowledging the beauty of each other's existence.
Yes.
Day to day. Not being so self-centered and focused on, me, individualism.
Right.
What
Well,
is it?
this sort of like the feeling that I get a lot of times, and I mean, this is human. This is a sort of part of our humanity, or human experience, our experience of being humans, that, we engage in things that make us feel better about ourselves. And so, this is really me having a conversation with white people and people of privilege who, I'm just like, I don't want to see sort of fake presentation. And that's, and I don't mean to question people's motivations. I really don't. I just always, in this If You Could See Me space, I always want us to be challenging ourselves to question what is making us do things. What feeling comes up that is associated with a motivation that then leads me to take an action? And, highlighting people and their experiences is a good action. That is a positive action. Yes. But what's next? Where do we go from there? Right? And so this is, when I say I don't want to be mad, it's not me saying I don't want to, that's such a base comment, but it really is just a call in. I am calling people into a deeper conversation. I'm not saying don't participate in Black History Month. I'm saying, why are you participating in Black History Month? And what happens on March 1st?
Right. Yeah. How do you continue to, celebrate, uplift, people of color, Black people in particular, specifically, outside of this one month of the year? And again, like you said, what are your motives behind it? And then how can you continue to be and pushed forward the ways of being that are anti-racist. 365. You know, what are we teaching our children? How are we showing up? What are we doing to help policies that help marginalized communities and Black folk? How are you standing up and speaking out on a regular basis, right?
So that's something that you do. I mean, are you comfortable talking here about, like your work with parents on your anti-racist parenting, initiative that you're doing? That's so remarkable.
So I did. Last summer, after the spark of this new leg of the movement, of Black Lives Matter movement, and just movement for racial justice and racial healing in this country that is so necessary. I saw a need for allowing parents to giving themselves permission to go a little deeper with conversations around race with their children, and getting more comfortable with being able to have those conversations. One, from the lens of mindfulness practice, and so really kind of going inside and understanding, what is the trauma that is there? What comes up when I think about issues around race? And this is for all people, right? It's for, white folk, Black folk, everyone,
right?
All people of color, to understand, what are the ways that race has impacted them in their daily lives, and what are the value systems and biases that we have, and then what are we passing on to our children. So that is the foundation of the work that I do with parents and in groups, to try to have an understanding of that first before moving into the conversation around, okay, now how do I have ongoing conversations with my children around race? And what I was finding was that, yes, we had especially here in Richmond, I mean, I know across the country, but in Richmond, it was just so, the movement was just so kind of powerful and very palpable, and everyone was trying to figure out what they could do and how could they, work with their children who are now home, really home, summertime, but still, right? Like, we're here, we're watching, we don't know what to do. I don't know how to have these conversations with my children because, at least in white households, talking about race is absolutely taboo. And so I don't even know how to begin to have those conversations. And so, resources are being put out there, book lists and, videos and all of that. And what I found that people were really needing is a space to just kind of talk about what's happening, come up with strategies together about how to engage their children in anti-racism and themselves, and then how to figure out how to go beyond just having those conversations with our children, and making sure that they have that education, that supplemental education to what they may or may not be getting in school. But then how can we go out and impact our world in a way? How can we show up in our communities in a way that is anti-racist? And so, so I started putting together these cohorts last summer, took a little break from that, and gearing up again in March to start offering those again. So if folks, want to put together a cohort of, like-minded parents who are interested in learning together and being in space together, we can do that. I'll also be offering something that's kind of a once a week, folks want to sign up and join, that way they can too. But it's basically kind of like a 4-week program so that we can kind of really go deep and have some some action steps in between, right? So it's not just, again, that one-off day of kind of learning or training, but it is really how to seed this work so that it can be the most effective and impactful.
An ongoing conversation.
Ongoing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I am sharing your website in the comments on Facebook. It's Joyful Muse
Coaching.com.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I just love that you are doing that, that you are offering that as, a space for parents to be able to, to process.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times people just are, you're 100% right that white people certainly don't get an education in how to talk about race. I feel I feel fortunate to have been to be Jewish, because I feel like I got a little bit of a foundation in terms of understanding that some people in our country don't like other people because and that systems have been designed throughout history to keep some people from having access to certain things. And so there is that sort of very minimal foundation that I received individually, but there's so much more. And if you're not a person who grew up with any of that conversation, then you're like, I don't even know where to go. We were always told not to talk about this stuff at all,
Oh,
or anything else that might make someone else uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
So nobody taught us how to talk about sex or money or religion or politics or death and illness, mental health, all of these things. We just don't have a foundation, because we live in a society that I've said this so many times, that values politeness and group comfort over all the other things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Over truth, over honesty, over education, over all of it. We can't upset the apple cart.
Right. Because then it allows you to be, forces you to be vulnerable.
Right.
And God forbid,
God forbid.
right? We come from a place of, or appear to come from a place of weakness versus strength overall.
I had a conversation with a parent in a therapeutic setting that I was working with, in the last year. And they, when I talked about like opportunities to process or connect with emotions, what they said was, I watch a lot of movies because they let me cry. It's okay for me to cry when I'm watching a movie. And nobody that's with me knows why I'm crying.
Interesting.
And, I was like, okay, great. Glad you have that outlet. It's wonderful that you have this release.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there is value in being able to connect with your emotions with other people,
With other people.
and to be able to to tap into that vulnerability. Yes, Shania just said catharsis. Mm-hmm. Hi Shania. I love that she always hangs out with us here, supporting her friend Lucretia. Um, yeah, I am. I found that just fascinating. It's like, oh, we don't know how to be vulnerable with one another, and oftentimes we don't know how because being vulnerable has been very dangerous.
Yeah.
Very, very dangerous. So that actually kind of, I didn't mean to segue into the sort of second half of our conversation.
But here we are.
In that way.
Right at the half-hour mark. You're brilliant.
Hardly. I wish that I could say that it was intentional. Look, we could talk forever about all of these things, but this situation recently happened in my neighborhood, in my world, that I wanted to address with you. And I just, I'm going to have a lot of conversations about this. It does sort of connect to our previous conversation, our previous part of our conversation about understanding barriers for Black people and people of color in our communities, understanding, what, you what might happen, what could be the outcome of a situation that I, as a white person, and as a white woman, am going to have a much different experience than a black person, a person of color, a young black man. So, a little over a week ago, um, there was a young black man in my neighborhood who was having a mental health crisis. Um, I was in the car on my way out of town. So I was not here to participate in this. But it brought up for me a lot of fear and concern, um, but also just an opportunity to sort of have an open uh, discussion about what does it mean to be a part of a community? What does
Right.
it mean to be a part of, a just everyday, middle of the road suburban community, and how are we showing up for one another?
Mhm.
This young man, all I know is that he was African American, um, identified as male, and was very distraught outside, so that neighbors were able to see this walking up and down the street, very upset. And my neighborhood has this amazing unity group where we are trying to educate and be, more conscious about certain issues. And somebody said, they sent out a message and said, I don't want to call the police. I'm not sure what to do. How do we respond to this situation
Mhm.
effectively and safely? And it is a really unfortunate and sad reality that in our communities, very often when an individual is obviously experiencing a mental health
Mhm.
crisis, whether in our homes or, out walking down the street or whatever, um, people automatically think I have to call the police
Right.
about this
Yeah.
because
That's what we
because
taught is the emergency response procedure.
right. Now, there are mental health crisis lines.
Mhm.
There are also those mental health crisis emergency response folks are incredibly overtaxed. And very often they have no choice but to involve the police in those situations. Now, fortunately, in Virginia, we are working really hard on, the Marcus Alert
Mhm.
and, engaging mental health professionals as
Right.
the primary responders to a mental health crisis in the community, either on their own or with a police officer if that is necessary. Um, and those folks who are working on that new way of responding to mental health crisis as a result of the Marcus David Peters incident back in 2018. I believe, please forgive me if I
I'm
did
not
that
sure the date
wrong.
myself. Yeah.
I believe it was 2018. And uh, and so we're opening our eyes,
Hmm.
and that is a great thing. But in the meantime, people are still having mental health crises
And
all
what?
day, every day.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the thing that came up, we had an amazing member of our community. I'm not even sure who it was, but someone stayed with this young man. Crisis was called. Crisis informed us that because the individual did not want to come in, police had to be involved. I, but a neighbor stayed with them in order to ensure that they were safe. They were being advocated for, that their family members were, involved. It was an ideal outcome for the current world that we live in.
Absolutely.
But I felt like it was also an opportunity to open up sort of broad discussions about um, mental health, about how mental health care is different for different groups of people, about how traumatizing it is to involve the police when it's not an absolute necessity, about the fact that we can all engage in layperson mental health first aid that gives us the skills to be able to respond initially,
Right.
um, and about bias,
Hmm.
about what do you think? of that person, if you see somebody out your window, what is the first thing that you think about?
Right.
And so that was a very long sort of explanation, but I felt like it was
No, I
really
mean, I think that
important to have this conversation.
it's so important because I think, even as you posed that question to me earlier this week, I thought, well, how would I handle it? Right. And how, what are the models for how to handle something like that in my community or any community in which I'm going to be a part of? And I found myself not having answers. I think my first inclination would be to dial 911. I don't have the, I wouldn't necessarily know prior to getting into my mental health profession, that, okay, wait, this is a different type of crisis and that this is something that needs to be handled differently. And so there are a different kind of set of protocol for what to do. But I think even initially, dealing with the fact that when we see something like that, our gut reaction, our knee-jerk reaction is fear and bias, right? I think when I say us, I mean typically. If I see someone having a crisis like that, I think it's kind of natural to go, oh, how is this going to affect me if I engage and I interact, right? Can I be harmed in this? And so it's kind of the hands-off approach. I don't want to bother. I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to keep walking. I'm going to keep moving away from it. And as opposed to, gosh, this is a person who needs help, right? And I think also the inclination and the bias too comes into play when I'm thinking in terms of, all right, whatever's happening with this individual, they did it to themselves.
Right.
This is their fault. I don't know what's going on, but they need, I'm not the person to kind of help them handle that, and so, and I think that this often comes into play when we're talking about mental health in general, is that the onus is on, the person who is having the crisis, who is having the issue. And so if we can pause that thinking, if we can place a stopgap between, my initial reaction and taking a breath in, okay, there is something that I can do here. And even if it's passing it off to someone else, trying to pass it off to the correct individuals, people who can actually help versus penalize, punish, and or flat out murder an individual maybe having a crisis. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So what are those steps, Erin? What, it sounds like your neighbor had really great instincts as far as, what to do to try to be with that person, to call the crisis hotline, and like you said, eventually police had to be involved because, there was no movement. Mm-hmm. Is that the right thing to do? I mean, is that the protocol? Is that, if I'm walking down the street and it's not necessarily in my neighborhood, but I'm out and about, right? Is the protocol the same? What do we do?
Well, I think that the first thing that we do is what you said just a moment ago, and that is stop, take a deep breath, and consider consider where to go from what my first thoughts are to what can I do? How can I be of service in this moment? Yeah. The question is always, is this individual safe for me to approach? And if I'm not sure, am I released of all of my responsibility?
Right.
And so the thing that was done by my, anonymous Good Samaritan neighbor was safe distance, remain engaged.
Right.
I am my brother's keeper, right? So, and I'm not a religious person by any means, but I attach myself to sort of that as a philosophical ideal that guides my life.
You are a human being.
So many words there. How can I be of service in this situation? Can I stand by at a distance and evaluate? Okay, what is happening? What is this person seem to be responding to in the world? Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't, right? Are there other people around that I can, align myself with so that we can provide support collectively?
Right.
There was a story last year about a situation that happened at a rally in front of the Maggie Walker statue. I don't know if you remember hearing this story. There was a rally in front of the Maggie Walker statue that was intended for youth artists to come and share their gifts with the community. As part of one of the many, protests and public, offerings that were happening during the aftermath of George Floyd's death, and as the movement for Black lives in our community continued to grow and gain visibility. And so this was, an event. Community members came down, they plugged in their stuff, they showed their art, they did live performance, all of those things. And there was a report of a situation where an older Black man who was experiencing homelessness had a moment. There was some sort of break from his connection to reality in that moment. And every person in that environment embraced him, not physically, embraced him as a human being. Instead of immediately going, oh, not my problem, don't know what his deal is, but he's ruining our afternoon and he doesn't deserve to be here, take him away, right? Because that's a pretty common response. You're muted.
Remove the disruption.
Yeah, exactly. Because we had a plan. We had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
We had a plan here, and our plan was righteous and just, and he's getting in the way, right? Their plan was righteous. It was just. Those children deserved to be seen and heard in all their magic. But this human being was afraid, and he was acting out in his fear. And they, instead of sending him away and exiling him and causing him further trauma by involving the police, they approached him gently and carefully. They asked him what he needed. They asked him if there was anyone that they could call for him. They gave him water and, and what they had access to in order to help de-escalate the situation. And they were able to effectively do that. They were able to effectively embrace this member of the human community and say, you deserve to be here too. And we're going to try and help you. Now, had he not de-escalated, it may have been necessary and right and safe for everyone in the immediate vicinity to involve authorities, whether that, in my perfect world, that involving authorities is involving mental health professionals who can come in and, and help him get the access to the help that he needs. In this world right now, that may not be the case. And I just want us to avoid that as much as possible. And I think that the number one thing that we can do is to do what you said, and that's just stop and breathe and remember that this is a person. They're not responsible for the moment that they are having, and ask ourselves, how can I be of service? It's really hard to have these conversations because I think people want like prescriptives. They want, here's how you do this in every situation, so that the outcome is in every situation as you hope it will be.
Right.
And we don't have the right or the ability to provide prescriptions for that. All we can do is say, yep, it's hard, it's scary. And yet, both and, just like before, you can do this. Mm-hmm. We can all do this for one another.
Right. We can see each other as human beings,
right,
to begin with, you know. Yep. That is a full-on human being in
full
front
on.
of you. Yeah. And the same feelings, emotions, drivers of fear, you know, all of those things that you have are happening with that person. It's just on a different level, yep. You know, and it may be beyond your understanding, but at the heart of everything, what is it? What is the kind of the hierarchy of needs, right? Like the idea that, like, you know, we all need certain things in order to feel safe and loved and you know, just cared for, you know.
And our basic need is like, right. My physiological needs are being met.
Right.
And so if I am the man in my neighborhood last week, mm-hmm. or if I am the man in that other scenario from last year, and or so many children in our school system.
In schools, yep.
Right? Whose absolutely. Biological and physiological basic needs are not met on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And they very often do not understand the emotional and behavioral actions or responses to those unmet needs, mm-hmm. right? So I'm hungry. I don't know that I'm hungry. I don't register that the reason I am filled with rage right now is because I haven't eaten in 12 hours or 24 hours, right? Because maybe I don't drink enough water and I'm feeling very dehydrated and all of the effects that come from that. So, I mean, those are just two very basic, sure. You know, maybe I don't have a bed to sleep in at night. So mm-hmm. I don't get a good night's rest. So my basic physiological needs are not being met. Everything, as you said, in that hierarchy of need is built on a foundation of physiological mm-hmm. needs being met. Everything comes from there. And you can't build an effective home on a foundation with a whole bunch of holes in it. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
That's the truth. I mean, you know, it's and when I think of in terms of, you know, just accessibility to again, basic health care.
Yes.
Right. For our homeless population, which is of course disproportionately, you know, people of color, yes. Black folk in particular, right? Yep. You know, though that need isn't being met, then it stands to reason that obviously the mental health need isn't being met. And again, that's not even, you know, for people who are homeless or who are you know, kind of going from home to home, who are drifting. I mean, that's folks that are we're working class people, folks who are just struggling to make ends meet right. from day to day, or just working paycheck to paycheck. You don't have time to think about what are my emotional needs, what are my mental health needs, what kinds of care do I need in that regard, because I'm just trying to make sure that there is a roof over my head and food on my table, you know.
Yeah, and there's no time for anything else.
Needs. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. It feels ridiculous to present, you know, self-care
right.
to a person whose only reason they're surviving is because the water is just right here.
Right.
Right? Like I mean, I have clients that I have presented, hey, mindfulness is really helpful. And I get laughed at. It's like, what makes you think that I can possibly, right? That I can possibly, you know, internalize the concept of mindfulness? Fuck you. Basically the response right. that I get. It's like, sorry, but no.
No. what what is, you want me to go into my, what is introspection?
Right.
What
What
is
is
my
insight?
body?
Right.
What do you mean somatic response? What are you talking about?
Right.
I'm trying to
And
figure out what meal I'm having next. I'm trying to figure out how to stay safe physically within my home from violence.
right. Exactly. And now, today, currently we have this added element of a global pandemic that most people can't just hole up in their house. Most people can't just say, well, I'm just going to work from home now. That is not an option for the vast majority of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, who, don't, and most of whom are Black people and people of color, because we have a service system that is entirely populated by those folks.
A
And
caste,
what, say that again?
a caste system like we
Right.
are.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Mhm.
And so it all piles on.
Yeah.
And the idea that, you can't even decide to stay home if you don't feel well, right? If you have symptoms, you think, well, what am I going to do? If I say that I have symptoms, then somebody's going to quarantine me for 2 weeks and then I'm not going to have a paycheck. Okay, so I'm going to go to work with symptoms and then I'm going to feel the weight of, this is wrong and I should not be doing this. And I feel terrible for having to make this decision. It's just like an endless,
Yeah.
and no wonder we have a mental health crisis in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just taking all of that in. Yeah.
Yeah. I so appreciate you being open, well, you being you, and always just being like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. We're not going to have all the answers because, no one does. No one's figured it all out. But if we can just show up and be people
And just talk
together.
about it. I mean, having
Right.
the conversation, period. We're having conversations, I think, in our homes, if we're having those conversations, or we're checked out and, being distracted by something else so that we don't have to think about it. But
Well, and
it,
there's value in that too. I'm
yeah,
sorry
sure.
to interrupt you. I
No.
feel like I'm always giving people homework and I'm always saying, we can do better, be better, be better, and I don't want people to feel like, Erin, like I'm handling all that I can
All I can
handle
get.
right now, right? It's enough already with the homework, right?
Mhm.
And so we all need to be taking care of ourselves and not adding to the pile, um, and resting and taking breaks when we can so that we can return,
Yeah.
begin again, as
It's
as the
important. You have to
mindfulness
be, yeah, you have to have
monitor.
restorative practices, and sometimes part of that is absolutely dropping everything,
Yes.
checking out, letting your literally letting your brain cells renew and refresh themselves, and regenerate. Um, but I think um I'm reluctant to let go of the idea that we cannot do that 24/7, and it's way too easy for us to do that, and to not have these conversations and to not see one another. Everything's so kind of customized to what is my want and desire and need in that moment versus kind of looking outwardly and making those connections with one another. And until we can do that, we're not going to be put ourselves in that place. What were you saying earlier? That place of just like that la la world of just of harmony, which I think is what we all really want.
We want.
Certainly what we need. It's certainly what I believe humans were meant to do and how we're meant to interact with one another. We need one another.
We do.
But it's very easy to withdraw.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot going on. No blame, no judgment.
No.
However, if we want things to change, we have to do something different.
That's right. That's right. And that, and that's why I love these conversations with you. And I love the work that you do, and I love the work that I do.
I love the work that you do. I love the work that we do.
We get collectively,
to
right, exactly. But
privileged to do.
Just because it creates these spaces for people to go, oh, okay, wow, I never thought about that. Yeah. Or can I process these emotions? We can't process our emotions 90% of the time in our lives. We move at the speed of light.
That's right.
Always. And so just having these spaces where people can sign on, you can sign on to live, you can download the podcast, you can, join one of your groups, you can hire either of us for various things, but, you can take that time for yourself, however however it's meaningful for you, and it fits into your life. And but we can't distract always. We can't. Hey, Anne Marie. Anne Marie is one of my amazing neighbors that I was talking about earlier, who is just doing incredible stuff in our community and beyond. And I just want to talk forever.
I know we could go on.
I know it's time. We're reaching the end. Okay, so for our podcast listeners who will be out in the ether, how do they find you? Say that out loud to all the people so they know you've been on before, but we say it every time.
Every time. So website, newly refurbished website. Refurbished, is that right? I don't know.
Yes, that is a word.
It's a word. Is it a word? That is appropriate in this moment. Sure, why not? Sure. www.joyfulmusecoaching.com. I'm also on Instagram at Joyful Muse Coaching, LinkedIn, Lucretia Marie Anderson, and also on Instagram at Lucretia Inspires if you want to see my personal page. That's how you can get in touch with me and learn more about my services and the services of my partners and affiliates. And a blog. There's a blog there too. I'm really proud of the blog. Do read the blog.
Tell us about the blog. What's happening on the blog?
Well, I mean, it's just, it's just thoughts and about, if you want to learn more about, for example, what is coaching, life coaching versus therapy, and how those look differently and how they can, work together. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on anti-racism and parenting and anti-racism in the workplace, thoughts on mindfulness, all of those things. So it's a little more, I think right now the blog more just kind of in educational information. What is that? Where's the merging of that word? I feel like there's a merging of those two words with like education and information.
I know edutainment.
Oh, or yeah, anyway.
I know. But I don't know about
what I was going for.
Edufamation. That doesn't.
Gonna educate you and give you information about those things.
Beautiful. Sometimes more words is good.
Sorry. But also, eventually just kind of, just some further explorations into to other topics and things that are on my heart and mind. I'm also a contributor to a book that is coming out at the end of March called Raising Global Children. Very proud of that. I contributed chapters on privilege and talking about privilege with your children and the importance of that. And then also just exploring the world together. So getting to know other cultures and ways to do that. That's what I'm up to.
Amazing. You're doing so much incredible work, and I'm so honored to have you as my monthly co-host for these Saturday morning coffee conversations. I always hate to end, so I won't end. I'll just say bye for now. And everybody check out Lucretia, and please visit my website if you could see me.com, and let me know if you are interested in learning how to and then sharing your story with the world. Have a wonderful Saturday. For everyone who is in the Central Virginia area, please be safe. It is
safe, be warm.
Catastrophic ice out there, and
stay home and cook food. That's what I'm doing.
That's what I'm doing. I am excited to start a brand new If You Could See Me cohort group today. And I can't wait to see what comes of it. Lucretia, thank you so much, my friend. Everyone, have a beautiful, safe, and warm day.
Bye-bye.